In 1972, there was a bank robbery in Brooklyn that was done to fund a sex change operation. And this fiasco turned into a day-long standoff at the bank. 3 years later, Sidney Lumet turned the strange story into the popular movie Dog Day Afternoon. It's an intense movie that's surprisingly funny, and it features one of Al Pacino's best performances. The movie stars Al Pacino, John Cazale, James Broderick, and Charles During. The initial story was based on an article that was in Life called Boys in the Bank. Once it was released in September of 1975, the movie was a critical and box office success. It was nominated for 6 Academy Awards and 7 Golden Globe Awards, and it won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Al Pacino was the director's first choice to play the primary bank robber because he had such a resemblance to the real robber. Initially, Al Pacino turned him down because he kind of wanted to take a break from the movies. During that time, he had just completed production on The Godfather Part 3 and was just completely physically exhausted and kind of depressed after the shoot. At that point, the director tried to summon the help of Dustin Hoffman, but eventually Al Pacino changed his mind when he heard that his rival was being considered for this role. The director was completely about authenticity, except for the Elton John song that plays over the opening credits, which turns out to be coming from Sonny's car radio, and a couple of other snippets that are heard elsewhere coming from radios. There is no music in the movie. He left the score out intentionally because he just felt like that music was not a good fit for this movie. Most of the movie takes place in 3 locations: inside the bank, on the street outside the bank, and in the barber shop across from the bank. Standard procedure would be to shoot the street scenes on location and then film the bank and barbershop interiors on sets constructed on a soundstage. That way they have much more control over lighting and sound. But the director wanted a realistic look and the feel of continuity with the film. He wanted us to see, for example, that when the character walks into the bank from the street, he's really doing that, not walking through a door and emerging onto a fake set miles away. Lumet found a block on a Brooklyn street that suited his purposes for the film, which included a vacant warehouse that he could turn into the bank. The movie takes place in late August, and the makeup department did fine work making everyone look appropriately sweaty. But the film was actually shot in the fall, on a particularly chilly fall at that. When they were filming outdoors, you could see the actor's breath, which just obviously wouldn't do in the film. They use the same trick that they always use when this is a problem, and they have the actors walk around with ice chips in their mouth to cool their breath before it hits the air. You probably know that most movies are not filmed chronologically. First, you shoot all the scenes that use location A, then you move to location B and film whatever scenes take place there, and so on. But with this movie being shot in one spot, it was almost feasible to start on page 1 of the script and just shoot the whole thing in order, which really would make it easier for the actors for obvious reasons. The director did pretty close to this. He shot all the street scenes first, in order. Then he moved inside the bank and filmed all of those scenes in order too. The production company hired about 300 extras to play the crowd that gathers outside the bank during the standoff. But when you film a hostage crisis on a real functioning street, people notice this. The crowd ended up swelling every day they filmed, especially in the late afternoons. As time went on, the extras that were hired were outnumbered by the actual bystanders just wanting to catch a glimpse of them filming this big-budget movie. The actors on the movie didn't just improvise in rehearsal, but they actually did it when the cameras were rolling too. It's one thing to incorporate dialogue into a film that the cast comes up with during rehearsal, but it's quite another thing for the actors to improvise on the spot while the cameras are rolling. It happened at least twice in this film, once because the director asked for it, and once it was totally out of the blue. Right after Sal fires the gun because they think the cops are sneaking in through the back of the bank, Sonny comes outside and gets yelled at by the cop played by Charles During. For this scene, Lumet told During to improvise and to immediately get Sonny on the defensive. He had 3 cameras rolling during this take to capture what happened. Watching this part of the film, you can feel the spontaneous energy and confusion from both actors that develops. The other instance was a minor one, but it was pretty memorable. When Sonny asks Sal if there's any particular country that he wants to go to. The script had Sal giving no reply, but when they shot this scene, Sal replies Wyoming. Pacino stayed in character while the director tried to keep from laughing. During production, Al Pacino really got into his role, and he reportedly intentionally only slept a couple of hours a night. He ate very little, and sometimes he would take cold showers in order to emphasize Sonny's exhausted yet wired appearance. Near the end of the film, after being stuck in the bank for many hours, Sonny makes 2 emotionally draining phone calls. This scene was filmed near the end of the shoot, so that Al Pacino really had been cooped up in that building for a long, long time. And like his character, he wanted to get out of there. In a way to take full advantage of the actor's weariness, the director filmed the phone calls together with no cut in between them, so that Pacino would be worn out from the first call when he made the second call. The whole sequence lasts about 16 minutes. When it's over, the director told Pacino to do another take, and this was all done without pausing for any rest. It's the second take that appears in the movie, so Pacino seems especially drained, and now you know why. The real bank robber's accomplice, Sal, was in truth an 18-year-old delinquent who had been in trouble with the law for most of his life. The screenwriter envisioned this character as a handsome kid that Sonny had picked up in Greenwich Village. He's described in the script as medium height and good-looking in an intense, boyish way. This made the director extremely skeptical when Al Pacino recommended his good friend John Cazale for the role. He had been in the Godfather films with Pacino, and he was 39 years old, and he wasn't really what you would call beautiful. Lumet brought him in to read for the part, and as soon as he did, he was sold on him in a matter of minutes. He is such an accomplished actor, and it's so sad that he was lost so early in his career. One of the odd things that happens in this movie is that Sal berates one of the bank tellers for smoking, saying that he doesn't smoke because he doesn't want to get cancer. But the truth be known, the actor was a very heavy smoker, and he ended up dying from lung cancer 3 years later. He is truly one of the biggest talents that you'll see on the big screen, and it's such a sad thing to have him pass away so early. There's no telling where he could have gone with his career. There's one aspect of the true story that was just so bizarre that the director didn't want to use it in the film. During the real standoff, TV News showed home movie footage of the bank robber's marriage to the man whose sex change operation the robbery was intended to fund. But in the movie, they changed that up a little bit, and the TV News shows nothing more than still photos of the bride in a white dress. That's because that the real wedding footage showed what evidently was a raucous, colorful event with much cross-dressing and general revelry. Lumet feared that it was visually so bizarre and such a shift in tone that the audience couldn't come back to the tense reality of this hostage situation that they were seeing. If you've never seen Dog Day Afternoon, it's well worth the time spent watching it. You've got great actors and a great director, so you won't be disappointed. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.